Oh love, it's like I'm fading away. I want more, I want more. Oh love, it's like I'm fading away. I want more, I want more.
Hi guys, so we're going to be doing a walkthrough on how to mix vocals with Nectar. This is a great plugin. It's made by Isotope and it's a really easy and quick way to process your vocals and get them sounding professional. Let's get into it. Great, so this vocal is from Splice. You can download this with any Splice account. Let's start at the top. We've got this EQ. This is boosting the high end, cutting out some of the mids which are quite muddy, and taking out only the low end. With any female vocal, you're generally going to want to take around anything under 100 Hertz because that's going to be bass frequencies produced by the voice that aren't necessary. With a bloke or a man, it's sort of a different story because a lot of men and the power are in the low end, so around this between say 100 and 200 or 50 to 150, so you don't really want to be cutting all of that out as that's where a lot of the depth of a vocal from a man comes from. But with a girl, it's a fairly safe bet. You can cut anything under 120 Hertz. So next we've got this, because without it, this boost, it's a little bit...
Oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
Essentially, it's just to brighten it up and make it pop through the mix. This little mid cut,
oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
It's quite boxy around those frequencies.
Oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
So I've cut those. Again, you could use a different EQ, like a Pro Q3 might be a bit nicer when you boost it, but it really doesn't make a difference, and people often underlook the EQ8, but I think it's pretty good. Then we've got the Nectar. So this is where most of the processing is coming from. So we're going to work through this from left to right. So this first section is the auto tune and also pitch. So pitch correction and also pitch formation. So
oh love, it's like...
So if we increase this dry wet, then the signal is going to be pitched up and down. So I've not used any pitch correction or anything like that because I don't feel like the vocal needed it, and it might already have some on it. It's hard to tell, but it is dry, as you can see. So I don't think it does, but I guess the singer's quite good, so it doesn't actually need it. We've then got this saturation. So
oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
It's quite subtle, and to be honest,
oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
Can't hear it doing much, but a saturator essentially is, so if you look at these,
oh love, it's like I'm fading
all these
away.
points, it's essentially boosting and making more of those. So basically making it louder generally and filling in more frequencies. We've then got this de-esser.
Oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
So this sort of is like a multi-band compressor for the high end, and basically takes away a lot of the harsh sh, sh and t, t. The S's and T's are very harsh when it gets picked up on a microphone, and this sort of smoothens them out. We've then got this EQ, boosting a little bit more of the top end, just so it punches through, taking away again a little bit of the low end, and I guess boosting around this frequency.
Oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
AB.
I want more, I want more.
So yeah, definitely making it a bit brighter, a bit more sparkly. We've then got this compressor.
Oh love.
So a compressor makes the loudest bits less loud and then brings up the total volume with the makeup. So basically makes the quieter bits the same volume as the louder bits. So you should really compress your vocals, if not with one, then with two compressors. So that's what we're doing here. We've also got a second compressor, just making sure that everything's nice and the same level. So if you look at, like, say these little bits, they're nowhere near as loud as this, whereas these two compressors together sort of make all of these, there'd be more of a flat line, which is what we want. But you don't want to overdo it, where it's all just a complete flat line and there's no dynamics to it. You do want to compress it, but not over compress it. Yeah, so we've then got this dimension. Again, you don't always need to process vocals as much or with as many little plugins as this. Sometimes if it's a really nice vocal, you can just get away with a reverb and a bit of compression and an EQ. You don't necessarily have to add all these little things, de-essers, dimensions. Essentially, dimension is a chorus. Fancy word for a chorus.
Oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
So sort of giving it a bit more width. Yeah, it doesn't do too much, to be honest. It's fairly similar to having a really short decay, of course. Sorry, not decay, a delay. Which moves us on to delay.
Oh love, it's
if I exaggerate it.
Oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
So who doesn't love delay? It's probably my favourite effect of them all. Just because you can be so creative with it.
Oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
So if you've got headphones on or you've got super good hearing, you can hear those little delay shots of that main vocal. This basically helps to fill out these gaps between the words. So look.
Fading away. I want more. Oh love,
So it makes it less sudden between the stoppage of the singing. And then lastly, we've got this reverb. The reverb inside this nectar is actually really nice. I think it is anyway. I've got a fairly low dry wet. All these have a fairly low dry wet, apart from the EQ and compression. But yeah.
oh love, it's like I'm fading
Without
away.
it,
I want more. Oh love, I really want you to stay. I won't let you go.
So this reverb is actually doing a lot. The original vocal is actually quite harsh, and this really helps to soften it out and give it a little bit of a sparkle. I've got quite a long decay on it, which generally you wouldn't have on a vocal, probably more than 3 seconds, but in this I've got 4.2, I guess just to smoothen out the vocal because it is quite harsh. The reverb is also putting the vocal into a nice space and giving it its own space to sit above the kick and the bass, which are sort of mono.
Oh love, I really want you to stay. I won't let you go.
On its own.
I want your body, cause I love the way you make me feel. I want your body.
I mean, it just makes it 100% better than it. Much easier to listen to, much nicer to listen to. That is pretty much it. Then we've got the compression sidechain to the kick. So basically when the kick comes in, the vocal ducks slightly. So this only really happens in the drop, but essentially it's so the kick can punch through the track more. We've then got, for this I've just lowered the threshold, kept this around the same. You can really tweak these. Normally I'd use a kick 2 to be honest, but I thought I'd go stock for you guys. We then got this reverb. This is just used at the start. So if you listen to the start vocal, along with this auto filter, it's really subtle this, so you can barely hear that vocal, but it sort of just adds a slight bit of ear candy that if you are listening heavily, you can hear it. Just adds a bit of ambience. Without it, it just sounds a little bit dry.
Oh love, it's like I'm fading away.
Great, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you very much for watching. I will see you next time.